All right. Well, now's the time in the evening where I get to sit back, relax, and actually probably not relax too much, take lots and lots of notes and learn a whole heap because tonight we have a guest expert on who is going to be talking about something in the marketing field. So it is Darren Saul, and Darren has a photography and videography business, and he navigated into this world of podcasting. I don't know whether it was by accident, but he sort of found his way into it, thinking that it might be a good marketing channel. And lo and behold, he had such success with it, and it really had a significant impact on his business. Which I take that to mean that he started to make sort of a whole lot more money with it because he got a whole lot more clients and it was really started to take off. That he now teaches other people and shows other people, the power of podcasting and why people should use it, how to set it up, and really what are the benefits of being someone in your space, in your industry, and having a podcast. So it might be interesting, if at some stage, if you go and have a look at, say, something like iTunes or Spotify, just have a look at podcasts that are in your industry, see what's there. And you may find that that there are none, or that they may be all overseas, and maybe there's no local ones there. So if that's the case, there's a whole opportunity in there for you as well too. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to let Darren talk about all of that because he is the resident expert in this. He has a podcast called Suspended Animation. So just remember to go and check that out. Go and subscribe to that channel. Really helps if you subscribe to it as well too. And I'm going to hand it over to Darren to come and enlighten us and talk to us about how we can use podcasting in our business. So let's give Darren a huge round of applause to welcome him in.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you for the great introduction, Nick. Really appreciate it. And the plug there. So first of all, thanks for having me, everybody. Really nice to meet you. Some familiar faces that I know from the BX community and some new faces as well. So really, really nice to meet you all. And basically today, I just wanted to chat about two things in particular, but I'm going to talk about podcasting in general, and I want to make this as interactive as possible. So during the talk, please just put your hand up, just jump out on your mic, just say something, just jump in. Let's make it as interactive as we can. But I want to cover two key points in particular about the podcasting space. And those 2 points are, one, how important podcasting is from a marketing and brand awareness point of view. But two, how important podcasting is from a content creation point of view. And that's something that everybody's struggling with nowadays, or both things that everybody's struggling now with. Everybody wants more awareness, everybody wants more business, but everybody also wants more content. And nobody has enough time to create content. And so for me, after podcasting for a good 3-4 years quite heavily, I've realized that it's become the backbone of my marketing content creation machine. And if you can do it well, it can really take so much of the headache and the guesswork out of creating content. And it's something that Nick does with his show as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop in a link to the chat, which is just a little 11 key points about podcasting, or little 11 key takeaway points that you can have up on your screen, or you can just take them home. I don't really want to share it because I want to look at your faces while I talk, but just something that you can have in the background, which might come in very useful. Tell me, just wanted to make sure that's working for everybody. Everybody gives me a thumb up. Yep. Great. Awesome. So I fell into the podcasting space by accident, as Nick mentioned. So I'm a photographer by profession. I do lots of photo shoots, corporate and private events, headshots, marketing, photography, all that kind of stuff. And at a certain point, 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that there had to be a better way to start marketing a business. The old ways weren't working anymore. We weren't getting as much traction out of advertising or, letter drops or cold calling or what have you, or, ads in the Wentworth Courier, etc., or in some other places. So I thought there's got to be a better way. And I was listening to lots of people talk about the podcasting space and about the social media space in general. And I just thought, what the hell, I'm going to give it a try. And I just started diving into podcasting and social media as a whole. And I've never looked back. It's been an incredible journey. I've learned so much, and it's just something that appeals to me more and more every day. And I've kind of built a whole business around helping people put podcasts together, build brand awareness, get more marketing benefit out of podcasting, and get more content now out of podcasting. And so it's just been something that I've loved. I've always loved it, and I just will evolve, hopefully, with it as the technology and the space evolves as well. But I'm going to dive into point 1. And again, keep this interactive. Any questions, just jump straight in. So why podcasting? These days, everybody, realizes how saturated and how noisy social media is. Social media is still one of the best ways to market your business. It's an incredible marketing channel, an incredible marketing platform, but it's getting noisier and noisier every day. And even just today, I opened up Facebook, and every second post was a suggested page from somebody that had a paid campaign or a promotion of some kind. And I thought, my God, I can hardly even find any normal organic content anymore because there's so much noise and marketing promotion on this channel. So enter podcasting. And I think that's why it is so powerful to use a podcast, because you can start to really give fresh and varied content to your target audience and not just be hidden amongst everybody else in the scroll, in the feed, because it can start to really refresh what you do every day. You're not just posting up the same stuff. You're not just posting up anything with your face. But if you have a podcast with a guest, for example, you've already got some interesting collaboration content with another guest, with another expert that has a different point of view. And that's constantly bringing variety and something fresh and unique to your feed or to your promotional marketing material, to your guests and to your audience. So it just keeps things really fresh and varied. And again, particularly when you have guests, it is extremely powerful and extremely, very flexible and very, very, you can take it in a million different directions. So the second thing about podcasting is it allows you to build brand awareness without putting on a hard sell. You're not pushing a sale of any kind. The powerful thing is that you're creating a podcast that, you might show up once a week, once every couple of weeks, once a month. And just by you being there, showing up, talking about what you talk about, talking about what you're passionate about, bringing content to your audience that's interesting, that's quality, that's not a hard sell of any kind about what you do, it already just puts you front of mind, front of face into your audience, into your target audience, and you're not actually push selling anything. And if you do it well, people will just say, great, who's this person that keeps popping up? Or he's really interesting, or she's really interesting. They'll go and search your website and they'll say, oh, that's what he or she does. Okay, that's interesting. I might just bookmark that for later on. So it's a very passive way to gain awareness and to build awareness for what you do and who you are. Third, very, very powerful point about podcasting is that it allows you to gain incredible access to people, and that could be potential customers that you would not normally get access to. So for example, if you've been chasing a particular prospect for some time and they never return your phone call, you never meet them at a networking event, and you've just always wanted to get them for 5 minutes so you can speak to them about whatever you want to speak to them about, whatever agenda you have. Podcasting is an incredible way, because let's say you tried to call that person or email that person out of the blue, they'll just say, go away, don't know who you are, to the bin. Or you might not even get them. You might get their secretary or their front of house or, their PA or whoever else. But if you ring up and say, oh, look, it's Darren here, and I'd love to actually book, I run a very successful podcast, or a very, busy podcast, and I'm looking to get Mr. Jones on my podcast next week. I was wondering if he could call me back to chat a little later on. And everybody wants their 5 minutes of fame. So I guarantee it that Mr. Jones is going to call you back within 10 minutes. You're going to have a conversation with him, and you're going to start to build a relationship with Mr. Jones that you would have never, ever had access to in your life, through the traditional marketing and traditional cold calling channels. So it's an incredible way to start building relationships with people that you might not ever get access to simply because you're offering them a spot to come and do be a guest on your show, and everybody wants that. So really, really powerful. And this is what I'm going to talk about a bit more in more detail, is that your podcast allows you to extract many, many pieces of content from just one podcast, whether that's in video or audio form. You can extract written content, you can extract audio content, you can extract video content, you can extract graphic content, and you can extract photo content. And as Nick said, I really think that video, and as Paul Sheaf also advocates, video is extremely powerful. So if you are going to start up your own podcast these days and you aren't too frightened of the camera, even if you are a little frightened of the camera, you can get over that. It's not hard. I was petrified when I started. But if you can build a podcast that's in audio and video form, it's incredibly powerful because you just never know where your audience is going to consume you. You don't know whether they'd like to listen to you in the car or while they're on the treadmill, or they want to watch you in the morning at a certain time because they're just making their breakfast or whatever. So if you can have a video form as well as an audio form, you really are covering all the bases, but you're also covering all the bases from a content creation point of view. Because again, when you have video, you can start chopping that up into little bits of marketing video content. You can start taking screenshots. You can start, extracting all sorts of other things from those channels as well. You can go to Rev and different websites like Rev and extract actual written content that goes into a blog post or an article on LinkedIn. So just for having an audio and a video version of your podcast, you're covering all the bases from a content creation point of view, and you're also covering all the bases of where your audience is going to consume you. So it's really, really powerful. I can't stress that enough. Podcasts allow you to leverage your guest's audience and allow you to build your network and your brand much, much faster than if you were doing this just on your own without collaborating as well. So particularly when you have a guest, and that's why I'm always harping on having guests because I think they're just so powerful. And if you tag in your guest, you might tag in multiple guests each show, you'll repost your content, you might do a top 5 shows of the last 3 months, and you might put, 5 different guests. But every time you do that, you are covering your bases and you are networking with all of your guests' contact database as well as your own, thereby building your own brand and attracting many more viewers and many more potential network connections to your own brand as well. So just the fact that you have a guest allows you to leverage their network, and that is incredibly powerful from a marketing point of view. From a collaboration point of view, everybody loves to collaborate. Everybody wants to be a thought leader. If you are a thought leader in your area, that already puts you on a stage and puts you on a pedestal as a person that someone needs to speak to, and gives you certain credibility when you do approach people for whatever reason, whatever agenda. So collaborating with other thought leaders, and working with other thought leaders on podcasts and on shows like that can really establish you as a thought leader, as a brand expert, which can take a lot of work if you don't do something like that. Podcasts allow you to be incredibly creative, because the more you start playing with all these different mediums, audio, video, screenshots, photo, graphic, written content, you start to really get creative on how you put things together, and you start to hunt for different tools. And, Nick is a great example of this. He's always got loads of different tools that he's always playing around with. And, you start using all the content that you have and start plugging it into all these other tools that are available these days. And it's amazing what you can come up with. One tool that I might recommend is a great website video tool called SplashGo. It's SPLASHEO, SplashGo.com. And I've searched for loads of different video tools that allow me to make great videos with captions and SplashGo is by far my favorite. It can be a little bit more expensive than some of the others, but if you sign up, you get the first 4 videos free in a month, and you can, check them out and test it out, and you'll find that it's an incredible product. Australian product. I think they're based in Gold Coast, I think, SplashGo. So really, really great product. And it's just another example of what you can do after you start extracting video content. You can start plugging it into all these other things that it further enhance your content. But again, it all started with your podcast. So you get creative. Creativity, again, is a muscle. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I don't believe that at all. The more you practice being creative, the more you build that muscle, it just starts to come. And it's amazing what you start to think of when you're not even actively thinking about that. So it's an incredible creative outlet as well. You upskill and you get on top of all the latest technology. So these days, podcasting is much easier than it used to be. 5-10 years ago, there weren't as many products around. There weren't as many digital microphones. There weren't as many, there weren't as much technology that you could easily just plug into your computer. You had to have a studio. You had to have a lighting person. You had to have a sound engineer. Nowadays, you don't need any of that. You can run a very successful podcast from your house with the absolute bare minimum of technology, and you start to really play and get used to technology. So for example, I've got a great microphone here, which is a Rode Procaster, and the Rode products are fantastic. They're also Australian made, which probably cost about a couple of $100. Plugs into my computer via a little interface, which is not expensive, but you can also get microphones that go straight into your computer without needing an interface. I've got my Logitech camera in front of me, which is also $100 these days. And I've got a couple of little key lights or little ring lights on both sides of me. You can either have one in front of you, or you can have two smaller ones on either side. And there you go. You've got a whole new podcast studio set up, and you don't have to spend more than $500. And in terms of the actual apps, there are some great apps in the world these days for podcasting, but my favorite one is called Anchor, Anchor, Anchor.fm. And what that allows you to do is, Anchor is brilliant. They've actually been bought out by Spotify. They're such a great product. And what they do is they allow you to spit out your podcast to many different platforms at the same time. But the other thing is it allows you to create all your interludes, your intros, your outros, put music behind them, all in the app or on the website. So you don't even have to use any extra technology to do that. And it's really simple. It works really well. But if you want to create something that's more bespoke, you can easily do that. And you can plug that into Anchor really easily, or into iMovie if that's what you use for your editing as well. So really, really great product. So Anchor.fm. Another one that I use is called Podbean, but I would highly recommend probably using Anchor as your first one if you really want to get into podcasting. Another great benefit of podcasting is it really allows you to sharpen your communication, your interpersonal, and your interview skills. Everybody wants to be a better communicator. Everybody wants to be more articulate in their own business with how they deliver their messages. And the more you podcast, the better you are, the sharper you are in how you articulate your story and how you articulate what you're trying to get across, and in terms of influencing and your prospects. You have a lot of fun. Podcasting can be fun. It's fun. It's creative. It's funky. It's new. Everybody loves podcasting. Actually, a quick one. Hands up who doesn't listen to or watch a podcast. One person. There you go. This goes to show you how popular podcasting is. 1 out of 20 or so doesn't listen to a podcast or watch a podcast. So it just goes to show you how powerful it is as a marketing tool. And then if you start to really think of that as a content creation tool, you're taking your marketing strategy to the next level. And the last tip that I really want to give is it is incredible learning experience. I've done close to a couple of 100 episodes now, and I have learned so much from so many of my guests. Many of them are on this show. Steve Brodman was a guest of mine. Paul Sheaf was a guest of mine. Nick Cree's coming on next week. And so many others. I've just learned so much about marketing, business, entrepreneurship, finance, mindset, health and well-being, the arts, all from talking to people about what they do best. And it's like getting a little masterclass for half an hour, drawing on someone's experience that's, they've basically giving you the snapshot of the crib notes of their life's work in half an hour, 45 minutes, and you get to absorb all that information and use that for your own benefit. So it's an incredible way to learn, and podcasting has given me so much in terms of that. So now I've kind of just gone through the first, my first 11 or my favorite 11 benefits of podcasting, and I'll happily expand on those a little. But I kind of want to throw it back to the audience for a bit, and I'd love to have some question and answer time while I cover some of those bits, because I know everybody must have loads of questions about what tech do I use? Where do I start? How long should a podcast be? I mean, I've got so many questions over the years in terms of this, so I'd love to throw it back to you guys. Don't be shy. Who wants to jump in first?
All right, I'll go.
Krish, go for it.
Oh, no, you go, Krish.
I think you're muted.
You're muted.
Darren, thank you. Thank you. Most fantastic thing and most embarrassing thing is I'm the only one who don't listen to podcasts. And that's why I came here to learn about podcasting. Probably I should start listening first and then doing. But the great takeaway for me was it's not expensive, as you said. It's only cost you like less than $500, just $200. And that was fantastic. I was really scared of how much it's going to cost me. What's the setup I have to have, lights and all those things. But now that was a fantastic takeaway. I just want to thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, let's expand on that a bit. I'll just give everybody a little example of what I'm talking about. So there's a little, I'll just get that in focus here somehow. There's a little ring light. I've just got two of those, one on either side. They're probably about $30 or $40 from, Conan or Harvey Norman, or there's a million websites you can buy them from. Really, really easy. This mic, as I mentioned, it's probably a slightly better quality podcast mic. But in terms of technology, there are two types of microphones, okay? There are dynamic microphones and there are compressor microphones. And a lot of people can get a little confused with microphone technology. I get confused and I ring up, my suppliers a lot. And two great people or two great stores to go to when you're buying microphones. One is called DJ City. And I think the other one is called possibly Radio DJ, or Store DJ. But DJ City is fantastic. And you can just give them a buzz and say, look, this is what I'm looking to do. And they'll recommend a mic on the phone for you. They'll deliver it to your door, and, really, really handy. And they've got loads of different cost-effective solutions. But in terms of microphones, you've got a dynamic mic, and this is an example of a dynamic microphone. So I've got this mic really close to my mouth.
Okay.
And I'm not actually putting the mic right in front of me, because if I do, I get a lot of pops and pop, pop. So what people do is they tend to put it just to the side and angle it in. So there's a bit of space, a bit of air to come through. So you limit the amount of pops, is what they call. And you also have this little bit of foam on top, which is called a pop filter.
Okay.
Which also and all this stuff comes with your microphone, or if it doesn't, it costs you peanuts to buy. But a dynamic microphone is basically a mic that is up close, and it has a very, very small sensitivity frame. It only picks up what's here. Okay. So that's where I need it to be close. Whereas when you're in a studio, the environment is more controlled in terms of sound, okay, and you can have a much more powerful, more sensitive microphone, because you don't have to worry about background noise or cars driving past, etc. So if you ever go to a studio to do a show or whatever, you'll find that you probably use a studio mic.
Condenser.
A condenser mic.
Yeah.
They're much more sensitive. And there we go. Paul Sheep's got one right there. So they're much more sensitive, but because of that, you have to be careful of any background noise. So that's why a lot of podcasters go with these type of mics, which are dynamic, because it only picks up what's in front of me and it disregards anything behind me. So if there's cars and noise and people, nobody can hear it. So again, it depends on your studio and where you're going to be doing your podcasting. But so from a mic point of view, that's really great. You can have a boom arm. And again, that's a boom arm there that you can buy from Rode, or there's plenty of them. Also, $100.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So in terms of the tech, really, really cost effective. And Anchor, as I mentioned, is free to set up your own podcast. It's free. And then from a video point of view, I would recommend, probably using YouTube. Again, free. So you can have a YouTube channel, you can have a podcast channel, and you haven't spent a cent. So very, very cost effective. And then you start spending a bit more money possibly on things like SmashGo, which is what I mentioned, which allow you to just kind of, start stripping down that content and plugging it into other things, which even enhance your content creation and your professionalism in your way, your sophistication as a content creator. So yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, because I really wanted to talk about the tech. Has anybody else got any questions about the tech or about anything else?
It's not a tech question, Darren. It's more the two types of content. So I've got 59 episodes of interviews with people, and I totally endorse your comment. I got a front row seat in some fantastic conversations. Yep. I've just started a new series, so I'm creating content. So I've got a 8-week series, calling it The Lazy Entrepreneur. Yeah, and I can tell you it's far more time consuming creating content than it is interviewing somebody, because I don't have to think about it. I just ask some half intelligent questions. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts on whether you produce the content and you deliver it yourself, whether that has a far greater impact on maybe credibility or attracting attention from potential guests, or whether the conversational interview one.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. I think I'm kind of understanding is you're asking what benefits me more, the actual interview or the content?
Yeah. So when I'm interviewing somebody, a lot of my guests have been people who are providing services to my potential client.
Great.
Right. So I'm actually promoting their business.
Yep.
I'm promoting my business, but my intention is to give them the floor and tap into their genius. Yep. This came about because I actually ran out of guests, and so I went, okay, well, I'm going to consistency is important. So for the next 8 weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create content, which is basically my scale to success solution. But it's put into a podcast, and I'm delivering that content, and I've got video and graphics to support it. So we're repurposing the 59 episodes, putting those up on YouTube, because we did take videos from them, and doing the transcripts, putting them all up on individual web pages to get SEO. But I'm just interested to know whether your feelings towards is the interview style more engaging and people prefer to listen to that and then eventually come and talk to you, or whether the data shows that they're more interested in content and learning something like that educational piece?
I haven't actually quantified it, but I would say they go hand in hand. Like, I really think that, this whole strategy is an ecosystem that has to work together. You can't have one without the other. Like, I think the interview itself is the master content. It's the real girth, and then everything else that you start to strip from it and use as trailer videos and leader videos and sales videos and other little bits of content that kind of just bring awareness for you and your brand. They all kind of maximize and support that main entity, which is your grand podcast, your grand scale podcast, and all the content that you're putting together on your YouTube channel or on your podcast. So they kind of go hand in hand. And what I generally do, and this is only what I do, there's plenty of great things to do, but I tend to strip at least, lately I've been doing one, but I'm trying to strip sometimes 2 and 3 little 1 minute or 30, 40 second videos out of each episode. I put them up on SplashGo. I have captions, I make the colors, I put my logo, I make them really wow. And I see that on social media, they tend to do really well. Just recently, in the old days, just the post with the written content and maybe a screenshot was doing really well. But I'm finding these days that a video that's done professionally like that through SplashGo is really giving me lots more views and lots more traction. But it's got to be, everything, social media is about grabbing people's attention. And so if you do it well in terms of the right coloring, and that's why I use fluoro green, because it grabs people's eyes straight away. And when I have my videos up, the writing on top is like nearly, 3/8 of the actual video itself, and it's in big bold writing. So I have just a really cool catchphrase, and I try to grab people's attention. And then they see, they say, oh, that's an interesting topic. Let's press play. They listen and say, yeah, that sounds great. And then I have at the end of that, feel free to check out the full episode for more. And then they can click down in the comments for the link to the video, to YouTube, or to the podcast video, podcast audio, or whatever. So I really use them together. One's like a trailer. But the other thing I do is I don't just post them up once. A lot of people think, oh yeah, I've just done it once. I've got to do a whole new podcast now so I can get more content. No way. You can post them up periodically. You can repost them. You can re-gift them, repackage them in 100 different ways, because a lot of people forget that social media is so noisy that half the time, maybe 1 to 5% of your audience actually even sees half the stuff you put on. And if you've got a large audience, you can repost stuff 100 times before everybody gets to see it. So it's all about how creative you are in how you keep showing up, but using the same initial piece of content. So out of your 59 episodes, you can get so much traction if you just spend a little bit of time thinking about how you can start stripping more video, stripping screenshots and making some funny posts in Canva, stripping out some audio and putting some articles together, and always leading back to those same episodes. So I keep repackaging and reposting stuff all the time. And then with a podcast, the other great thing is you can say, okay, greatest hits of the last month, greatest hits of the last 6 months. And again, you repackage and you repost, your top 10 shows, and you tag every single guest in that show, again, reaching more people to your social media channels. So you can be so creative in how you do this. And the other thing that people don't realize is that you can treat your podcast as your own, blockbuster movie. Before Maverick comes out, what happens? The studios go crazy promoting it for 6 months. Then it comes out, and then they'll still have other stuff at the end to keep bringing you back to watch that same movie. And you can do exactly the same with your podcast. So you can say, guys, next week we're going to be hearing from, or next month we're going to be hearing from, or this month we're going to be doing this, next month we're going to be doing that. And you're constantly posting stuff up to build awareness and build buzz for what you're going to be doing. Then you release it, and then you promote the hell out of it once it's finished. So this is a whole ecosystem that never ends. And so with 59 episodes, you can really get serious with a lot of the work that you've already done before you even start interviewing anyone else. But of course, fresh content is important. And so the more regular you can show up with fresh, new content, with new guests, is really powerful. But it's really just getting creative about how you promote these things, how you start working towards promoting what you do and taking your audience on a journey with you, and you keep hitting them from different angles all the time. But again, it's an ecosystem that works together. And I think you can't really do one or the other. You've got to do it all to really expand and build your awareness. And I've seen great results lately from the videos that I'm doing. And that might change again in the next 6 to 12 months. Something else might come up and people might be wanting to look at audiograms, which is just, pieces of graphic content with audio behind it or whatever. You just never know. So you've always got to be looking and playing and et cetera, et cetera. I hope that kind of answers that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. It was great.
So it's really just, building a strategy. And, Steve Brosman, go for it.
Mate, you took the word out of my mouth. I was about to say one of the biggest things that you need to do as you're setting it all up. And thanks for tonight, Daz. I mean, you got a great heat there, and I just want to pick up on a couple of things that you've said, which is great. As you're setting up your podcast, you need to look at who you want to be seen as in the podcast. And I've seen people do excellent podcasts and they are positioned as the authority and they're interviewing and they get to open great doors because they've gone through the stage of setting it up right. I am the host of this podcast. I do this. And then they can actually open doors significantly higher than where they are perceived right now.
Absolutely.
Then I see other people that come at it from a servant's point of view. And they're just saying, oh, please, sir, be on my podcast. And then they're just basically interviewing all of their friends and colleagues. And it doesn't really do them any justice whatsoever. And one of the best things that you can do when you're interviewing people, the right way, then when you're seen beside these sorts of people, that is enhancing your brand. And we don't do podcasts because we've got so much spare time.
That's right.
We do it to grow our business. We want to get the return on time investment because our financial investment is not that great, but our time is the most valuable asset. So we want to get a return on investment. And if you do it the right way, you position yourself and you get the right people in, and then other people are looking at you and say, wow, look who they've had on their podcast. They must really know stuff. I might reach out and talk to them. And the other thing that I stuck in the chat a little bit earlier, it actually gets the people to have a relationship with you before they even talk to you. They might listen to a couple of things, and it might, even as a host, you might say a few things and say, well, that host is really cool. He must know a fair bit. He's hanging out with some really good people. I like the way he works. I can spend more time with them. I'm going to contact them. And so you got to think that it's a relationship builder with the people in the audience, not just with the person that you're interviewing. So it's going into it with the right outcomes in mind and then building it the right way. And I'm sure that's what you do when you're taking people all through the strategies and building it for them. Is like, what is the end result? And it is not just sticking yourself on the airwaves.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's one thing just to show up, and we all want to keep showing up because that's part of the process of social media and part of promotion and marketing. But if you can show up with some kind of a strategy, all the better. And, sometimes people will come to you and, they might not be exactly in your realm of what you normally would do or what topic you normally would do an episode on. But I kind of like to think as well that it's how you structure the episode and how you prepare the episode as well. And that's a really good point that you brought up, is that a lot of people might just bring on anybody and start chatting. And a lot of people won't even prepare an episode very well. So whenever I put a podcast together, I'll actually prepare the episode. I'll draft some questions. I think of my podcast like a funnel. I start off with a great intro. I start off with wide questions around the topic. And then I'll drill down and drill down and drill down into tips and strategies and tricks, for that particular topic. And then I'll finish off. So I'm always kind of using it as a funnel, but I prepare this in advance. And a lot of people will just jump on a podcast with a friend. Let's turn on the mic. Let's turn on the camera. Let's chat. And then it becomes a big mess. So
a lot of people think that if they prepare and they prepare all the questions, that they're going to be scripted. And that the more prepared you are, the more of yourself you can be.
Definitely.
And you just allow it, I've got it all covered. I know the questions. I know roughly where I'm going. If we go to rabbit hole, I know where to get out of. Yep. And for those that are a little bit scared of getting out and doing it, Yeah, I mean, when I teach video marketing, it's the one saying, it is your personality and passion that produces profits, not perfection.
Yep. Love it. So true. And yeah, absolutely. Like you don't go through everything verbatim, but you just have a loose framework that you can rely on if you need to. And you know, a lot of the time your guests will go on a tangent, but you can bring them back to the next question because you've got it right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's just really, and it's also gives the structure of the episode a flow and a momentum of its own. Otherwise, things go in haphazard tangents, and it's hard to follow. And the listener kind of say, "I'll turn that off. I can't follow this. This is a mess."
Yeah,
So,
mate, I've been on yours. It's very professional and it's lots of fun. And it really delivered some great content. So,
thanks.
reach out to Daz. He's a cool guy.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. But yeah, so preparation, definitely, and some strategy, as Steve says, around, you know, what you're trying to achieve, who you're trying to have on your show. Like a lot of people say, what's the, you know, focus of your show? And I call my show a variety show because I like to talk about lots of different things. I'll get bored if I talk about the same thing, but some people might just want to use it as a potential hook for their business, which might be a marketing business or a finance business or so whatever it is that you want your podcast to bring awareness for, you can just drill down and really specialize in that niche, or you can keep it broad. It's just up to you. But you know, as Steve says, it's all about the strategy. What are you doing this for? It's not just to get up and have fun and, you know, put up some YouTube videos. And I think I saw some other hands up before. Yes, lovely Kylie.
Hello. I have I'm just going to put it onto gallery so I'm not the big one on the screen. So hi, I'm Kylie and I have a couple of podcasts. One of them is Friday morning bite-sized conversations that I do with a colleague, and it's unscripted, but we have a topic each week.
Nice.
And we do it as a live video podcast. So we use Switchboard on Zoom so that we can go live in all the different places. And then we download it and put on an intro and outro and then put it up to YouTube and put it up to Bitesize, to Anchor.
Beautiful.
Two things I want to mention. One of them is what a nightmare we found when we sort of fell behind a little bit for about 6 months. So we were doing it all great. We just weren't then getting them up.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, no biggie. So we brought in a new team member so we could just get on top of it. And that's when we found out that you can't backdate anything. So we literally loaded up gazillions of podcasts in a day and they've all got the same date, which I just think looks really, really shitty.
Yeah.
So any thoughts around that, how to fix that, how to change it? Should I have just, also one of my issues too is that they're quite timely, some of them, you know, like I'm from an area near where there was all the floods in February.
Mm-hmm.
And we might have been talking about, one of our business chats might have been about end of financial year. So I really want to backdate it. I don't want it to be posted on July 19th and it was actually a February podcast.
Yeah, tricky. I think that is, you know, very tricky. I haven't really come across any way to, you know, play with the dates or backdate things. Like what I would say in response to that is just, it's about having your system in place so that you can somehow get it out every week, every couple of weeks. And you've done as much automation as possible. Doesn't have to be computer automation, but you've done a lot of scripting and automation in terms of your whole process so you can get it out in time.
I really learned that the very hard way, which was very annoying. So thank you for that. So yeah, it's not something that we've just stuffed up on. It just is what it is. Good to know. Thank you. The thing is about the camera. So I have a really great big MacBook desktop, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I've always been super happy with how it looks. I've recently had to do some videos for the government and I've discovered that my camera is actually not nearly as good as what I thought it was. Once we've taken it away, edited it, it's come back and I'm like, ooh. So you mentioned something in passing and I didn't write it down.
Yeah, so I've just got a little Logitech. It's a little Logitech external HD camera. This one is a Logitech 922C or something like that, if I remember. But you just Google Harvey Norman or Dick Smith Logitech HD, and probably the latest one right now might cost anywhere between $100 and $150, and they're usually pretty good.
The 920 is very
920
good.
something. Yep.
I use the 930, and I've got 3 of them, and they're really good. The difference with the 930 is if you wanted to sit someone beside you, you can actually control the lens more, and you can zoom, and with an app or using OBS, you can actually zoom in or out and get your positioning right instead of having to move the camera around.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can control all sorts of things, and it's only a little bit dearer, and it's, well, hang on.
Yeah, they're not expensive, but they're pretty good quality, and really easy to use. There you go. Paul's got one.
I was told by a podcasting coach that it would be about $600 for a good HD camera. And I just got all super overwhelmed with even where to begin with which one. And
that's probably actually a physical camera that you actually put up on a tripod.
yes, she was literally talking about a big DSLR or whatever.
You don't have to
use that for $3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long is a piece of string? You could go crazy with it, but
so you think that Logitech will be way better than just what's in the Apple computer?
It'll be a bit better than the Apple computer.
Anything is better than what is built into any laptop, whether it's a Crapple or a PC.
You're about to start a war.
And the other thing about that is a lot of people don't realize, or for any of the photographers here, that because you might have a bigger screen and you can actually have that little camera on top, it's actually taking you at a good angle as well. Because if sometimes people use a laptop and the camera's here, that's not a very flattering angle either.
Well, you can just look at the gallery and have a look around.
Yeah. So
because the camera needs to be close to your eye level, and mine is exactly eye level because I've got 4 screens here, so it's sitting on top of. It's right in the middle of 4.
Everybody needs a riser, right? Those that look down is like, oh no.
The last thing you want to see is looking up someone's nostril because it's down here in front of you.
But I also think it's really important when you're chatting with someone is that you're looking at them in the eye. So when they're looking down like that, you're not able to look them in the eye.
Yeah. True.
Talking to you, Fred.
We start a whole new subject here on framing up for professional video.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Darren, and thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
So, really easy. These things are not expensive. They're good quality. And, they used to say that the most important thing is the audio quality. But nowadays with video is becoming more and more important because it's so widely used. And, the audience is huge. So you really have to take care of your audio, of your video as well.
I'll just drop a link into chat. I discovered this awesome camera. I've got a Logitech 4K one that I bought at the beginning of COVID. And I was glad I bought it at the beginning because you just couldn't get them for 6 months after that.
Yeah, that's true.
But I did get one called Center Cam. And what it does is it sits right in the center of your screen. So if you've got a PowerPoint presentation or you're looking at the screen and at the audience, then it makes you look like you're looking directly at them because the camera is right in the middle. It's only a small one as well, and the quality is really good. So I've just dropped that link into chat if that's helpful.
Nice. I mean, there's so many. Everybody's got so many great tips and tricks and gadgets and websites. This is incredible. I mean, this is gold. Any other questions, guys? There must be a couple more. Everybody wanted to learn about podcasting. People that especially came
on my background, you can see just about there is the camera, just above my fingertip. But four screens, and it's near the center of the 4. So.
Yeah. My God, it's all happening over there at Mr. Sheep's place.
And if you want to go really wild, I went down to Bunnings and bought a plastic shed. And I had that sitting in my backyard, all lined out with acoustic tiles. And,
wow.
When I started that project, I thought, what have I just got myself into as I was halfway through it? But, it was too late. I had to finish it. So that's what I sit in now.
Yeah, and funny enough, like even I'm coming up to my 200th show very soon. And a friend of mine suggested, why don't we do it live? And I started looking into the cost of audio engineering and video engineering and hiring. And I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm just coming back to my old way because it's just too expensive and too much time. And, it will take too long to get out and process. So keep it simple. And, again, it's just about the content and about the energy and the guest. A lot of people forget about the fact that you're putting your guest on a stage. It's all about making your guest shine. When you're interviewing a podcast guest, it's about making them, the hallmark of the show and really allowing them to shine and just kind of really subtly moving them in the right direction to make sure that the show is as smooth and the momentum is flowing as needed.
Just on that, Darren, guests. If you do have a podcast with guests, how do you get your guests?
Yeah, great.
And the second part of that too is, are you in front of a microphone every week producing your podcast?
Yeah. So in terms of where to get guests, like 2.5 years ago, I joined BX Community, fantastic business network where a lot of these people on this show are from. And it's been incredible to get amazing guests that are really experts in their field and to share and collaborate. And it's been, so if you want to curious about building a podcast, sign up to a great business network and you'll get so many great guests just from being part of that business network. And it's phenomenal.
And Daz is a real beggar for punishment too. He has some of us on twice.
That's right.
There's a group that I've done some work with in America, the Speaker Playhouse. They've actually got an Australian once a month group, and it's full of people who have podcasts, summits, etc., who are looking for speakers and speakers who are looking for podcasts.
Awesome.
And they do an open drop at the beginning and say, look, if you've got an event or a podcast, tell us who you are, who you're looking for. They had it just last week, and I booked 4 podcasts just from that.
Amazing.
And if you've got a podcast and you're looking for people, then that's there. I don't have the link right now, but I'm going to be on with Nick in a couple of weeks' time. I'll make sure I've got it for then, or at least I'll give it to Nick and he can send it out, because if you're looking and you want to be on other people's, or you're looking for guests, you could go and get 5 to 10 people in a morning.
Brilliant. And
I've just shared the Facebook link to it, Steve. Just found it on Facebook.
Awesome. And you've just spawned me, you've just inspired me to come up with another idea, that something that I do is ask for them on social media. Like, a lot of people forget about just saying, look, I'm looking for guests for this and this and this. And you wouldn't believe how many people will come to you. Or whenever you post up a podcast at the bottom, or even in a video, you might say, always looking for guests to collaborate. Give me a buzz or send me a DM and let's chat. So it's amazing where you can find guests when you start thinking about, how to find them creatively. They're everywhere.
Source Bottle is also a good resource for guests as well. I find that really helpful.
There's another one called Pod Booker. I think there's another directory where a lot of podcasts and guests are on there finding each other. So there's lots of these different online directories. There's also podcast booking agents that kind of specialize. And if your podcast gets a bit of traction, they start coming to you because they want to book their speakers on podcasts. They're paid to book their speakers on different podcasts. So, it's amazing where the guests come from when you start. The momentum kind of just takes care of itself when you start.
If you put podcast in your LinkedIn profile of who you are, you get smashed.
Yep. There's always
brilliant.
That want to come.
I've had half a dozen podcast bookers reach out to me in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I've got November, December booked.
Yep. There you go. And I think the last part of that question was, or someone else asked me how often, but I generally try and do one once a week. Sometimes I take a break, but a lot of people kind of start to follow a show like they follow a TV show, and they're waiting for that. I wake up on Wednesday morning because I know that someone's going to have a new show, and I say, what's going to be here today? Because I'm looking for that. I'm waiting for that show. So it's nice to have that consistency if you can. But Dion's got a question. I want to make sure. Dion.
Just following on with what was said earlier, LinkedIn is a really good method to just reach out, like with all the groups and everything. When I was doing interviews for IT Forum, we found some really incredible people in IT. We actually had the CIO of the Commonwealth Games speak at our AGM. So now that was one that I didn't have to interview because he was CIO for Commonwealth Games. So we'll just let him go. My question is, you talk about the guests and everything. I understand the energy and the story and the strategy that you want to do. What have you found having like one person that you want to have that conversation with, or a panel, because what we went from going one person to a panel when I'm still with IT Forum when I was chair, and the panel just really worked out great. It was still whoever was the interviewer, but you had that engagement because then you sometimes had contrasting opinions. And then when you went out to the audience for a question, they actually came back a lot stronger because of these difference of opinions.
Oh, brilliant. I think, I'd love to do more panels. Sometimes I've done 2 people on a podcast, but I'd love to get really larger than that.
Yeah.
And there's even a trend now where a lot of podcasts are becoming live in front of an audience for the same reason.
Yeah.
People are actually filming their podcast in a studio live with an audience so they can really make it interactive and take this to the next level. So panels are fantastic because they're so collaborative. They've got so much energy. And I especially didn't want to come on this show and start just talking for an hour. I wanted to make this as interactive as possible. And so look how much great content and questions and different angles have come out of that, because it's been more of a panel interactive style than just me rambling on about, technology or whatever.
Cool.
So I think it's
Thank
really
you.
powerful. Absolutely. Any other questions, guys?
I was actually just, if we had time, I was going to go into the other side of the microphone, but Nick and I are going to be chatting for this in a couple of weeks' time. The experience of being a podcast guest, and I'm actually going to be sharing how I actually used being a guest on podcasts in America to build a 6-figure business from zero. And there's an art and a science of being a really good guest. So I'm actually going to cover that in a couple of weeks' time. So I'll leave it to then. But there's you've done an awesome job on setting up and being the host. But there's the other side as well that, come back in a couple of weeks' time. Nick and I are really going to explore that, because if you do it right, you just keep getting invite after invite, and you really can build your business.
Yep. And that's such a great point. Like, and I say that to people, if you really don't want to start up your own podcast, get on as many as you can. And if you do it right, as you say, it's an incredible strategy on its own. You don't even have to do anything. Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to listening to that.
So definitely bookmark 25th of October. So that's part 2. You've got one side here with Darren. You've got part 2 with Steve when he comes back on the 25th of October. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got time for tonight, Darren. So an incredible download of information, and yes, very interactive. So love the style as well too. And hope everyone got a heap out of that. I know that I did as well too. So let's give Darren a huge round of virtual applause.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Now, we did promise a door prize for today as well too. So you do have a special gift for a couple of people here. Do you want to tell us what it is, and then we'll go through and draw it?
Sure. So always happy to collaborate and help people on their journey. And I want to offer 2 free sessions to just come and have a chat with me for an hour or so about podcasting, any particular aspect of podcasting. So whoever wins it, you got 2 calls, and you can just give me a buzz and we'll set that up.
Awesome. So we do have our wheel of names on screen now. So this is our normal way of drawing it. Remember, you have to be in the room to win. So if you've disappeared, well, actually, you'll probably never know whether you won unless someone here tells you. So all of your names are in here. So let's have a drum roll, please, and we shall spin the wheel. The lucky winner is, on the line, Ron Biswick. Almost Paul, but that was Ron.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, there you go. You've got a session there with Darren.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So that's make some good use of that. That's for sure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And I think we've got one more, have we?
We do. And I've just popped all my details in the chat. So if anybody wants to reach out, and in particular the guys that win, just give me a buzz and we'll set that up.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, we've got the second spin there, and that virtual drum roll for Fred Gillen.
Hey, look at that. Sensational.
Excellent. Oh, well, congratulations, both Ron and Fred, for winning that session with Darren. Those others of you, if you are wanting to have a chat about podcasting or thinking of getting a podcast up, definitely be able to get in touch with Darren. He's more than happy to chat. His details are there in chat. So just remember, now's probably a good time to save that chat with those 3 little dots on the bottom right-hand side. If you enjoyed tonight and there was some points in there that you might have missed or you want to listen to it again, it will be up on the SmashGo YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. So now's a good time to go there and subscribe. When you do subscribe, click the little bell, and when you click that bell, you'll get a notification as soon as this has been uploaded there. The link for the SmashGo YouTube channel is in chat now, so you can click on that and go and subscribe to that now. Mary, where does the chat save to? Best thing to, it saves to your downloads on your computer, but if you just go and click that save chat, you'll see a little link which will say show in Finder or show in documents. Click on that, it'll take you straight there, so it'll just open up on your computer, but normally it'll just go straight to your downloads folder. We do have coming up this week, for those of you that have been on the local business growth lunchtime webinar, that is held on Thursday at 12 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. So, but the link for that is in Zoom. It is a half-hour session. And we have some local business leaders or business leaders talking about what's going to be happening and how to prepare your business for what looks to be an upcoming recession. So we had a economist from Bank of Queensland on last week, which was pretty interesting. Had a really good marketing guy on. Oh, that was me. And this week we have on Adam Bude, who is a sales expert, and really just talking about preparing your business for a recession. But not only that, it's like if you delve into these strategies and you listen to it, it's good for business anyway. So that is the last one is coming up this Tuesday, and the link for registering for that or finding out what it is in your time zone is just in chat now. So once again, I'd like to you to join me in thanking Darren for coming in tonight and giving his time, his expertise, some of his wisdom tonight on podcasting. So let's give him a virtual round of applause again. And I do look forward to seeing and listening to some of your podcasts as you get those up and start experimenting with it. Just remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be started. So perfection only comes after you started. And I can tell you, having been 5 years in this game, perfection never comes anyway. So you're just kidding yourselves there. So you might as well just get started. So thanks everyone for coming along, and I look forward to seeing you all again here next week. And also remember to bookmark 25th of October. We will have Steve Brosman here talking about the other side of being on the podcast. You've got a whole lot of other stuff to share around sales as well. And that is a session you won't want to miss. Next week, we have Carl Schwantz, and he's going to be talking about Google My Business and some pretty cool strategies around that there, which is how he built, or one of the strategies he used to build his business to an award-winning business, just with this free tool on Google. So that's it for tonight. Thanks everyone for showing up, and look forward to seeing you all again next week. Go and have a sense.
Hey guys.